Hi, welcome everybody to the Teaching That Counts podcast. I'm your host, Abel Maestas, and if you haven't listened before, this is a podcast for teachers, parents, coaches, admin, anybody that is interested in learning about enhancing teaching mathematics, student learning of mathematics, and just making math accessible to every kid and every student, every teacher, everybody out there to change the way that we are viewing mathematics in the world. So I am extremely grateful that you have joined me today in this episode, and I am grateful to be able to have this episode out. And it's a special episode for me because if you listen to my last podcast, I talked about my journey from coach to teacher and then now coach and consultant again. So that's getting ready to start up this school year. But in my last semester of teaching here, I was able to have a student teacher. And this episode is really geared towards those pre-service teachers that we have out there that are getting ready to go into the classroom and become teachers, which is we need so many more math teachers. We have such a need for that, at least in California, but I know in other states as well. So if you are a pre-service teacher, I highly recommend you listen to this episode. I have on this episode, my guest is my student teacher this last year, Jazlyn Martinez, and this was her first experience in the classroom. She has such great insights on how that experience was, what some advice she would give as other pre-service teachers are going into the profession and going into experience their first teaching, and just the experience that she's going through now as she gets started in her career. So I hope you enjoy this episode. If you aren't a pre-service teacher, I think this is just a great episode too for any teachers out there that are thinking about having a student teacher and becoming a mentor and that experience that teacher goes through. If you're a coach or an admin that has pre-service teachers or student teachers in your school, what that experience looks like and how that you can support them as they go through this experience. So hopefully you enjoy this episode, and I hope that you listen and get as much as you can out of it. Enjoy. Which we have been working together for 6 months now. And so my guest today is Jazlyn Martinez. Say hi to everybody, Jazlyn.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so she might be a little nervous because this is the first time she's been on the podcast. So everybody will give you a break. Trust me. We have been a little bit about Jazlyn that I know of. So we have been working together for about 6 months, and Ms. Martinez, as I called her for the last 6 months, was my student teacher. So you're a pre-service teacher. This was your first time in a classroom, working in a classroom with high school students. We were working with Math 1 and Math 2 students, and I had such a great time having you work with me and being able to learn in kind of, I would say, I'm not going to say a very different classroom, because this is kind of what we're hoping for in California in terms of inquiry-based and problem-based. But I know that it may have been different than your experience. So when we had talked about your reflection at the end of the year, I thought it would be a really cool opportunity for others out there that are listening to the podcast to come and listen to your experience as a pre-service teacher, because we don't often get pre-service teachers on podcasts. And I think your experience becoming into teaching is a really good experience. I think a really good experience for people to listen to. So welcome again. Thank you for agreeing to be here and having a conversation with me today.
Yeah, so
just introduce yourself and tell everyone how you came to consider teaching math.
So I'm Jazlyn Martinez. I'm a student right now at CSU Stanislaus. I'm going through the single subject credential program to teach math. And how I came to consider teaching math was, I was working at a tutoring center, and I just remembered how much I loved working with numbers, and I loved going in, working with the students that those students that did need specific help with math. I would, and like slowly starting to see them understand it. It was a really good feeling. And I remember just thinking, like, when I would go in there on the days that would be paired with one of those students, I would think, oh, I could teach this. I could teach math all day. And so, plus also, if you knew how to teach math at a higher level, you're pretty valued in terms of your usefulness there. So I saw that it would be a really good job outlook on it also. So I thought I'd go that route.
Yeah, I think that we always need, and they always say, we always need math teachers. We always need math teachers. So I think we definitely need math teachers, especially those that love math and love to teach math and love to see students learning math. So I'm happy that you made the decision. I'm sure somebody someday, when you get into your own classroom and you have your own students, they're going to be happy too to have you as their teacher. And I think many of the students that you were able to connect with this year, we're happy to have you there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I'm glad I said happy way too much for a podcast right there, but I'm glad that you were part of my class and that we were able to work together to help you with your learning. So let's talk about the experience this semester. And I know this was, and those of you that listen to my podcast, if you listen to the last episode, you know the kind of the situation that we came into this year. And so Jazlyn came into that situation in January and got to experience really some highs and lows throughout the year. And so I think that it would be really neat for people to hear how maybe some of the best things that you experienced in your first classroom experience, and what were maybe some of the challenges that you had over the course of the semester.
So actually, when I decided to go that route of teaching math, I had to start studying for the CSETs. That was because I got my degree in business finance, not mathematics. So going back into the classroom, I realized pretty quickly that I had some touching up to do in terms of the content that I hadn't seen since high school. And that was now a decade ago. So I think going home and not just relearning the material, but learning how to teach it, and in a different way, the inquiry-based approach, that was the biggest challenge for me. I remember it was like quite overwhelming to start, so I quickly made some kind of a system where I'd view the material first through a student lens and then view it through a teacher lens so I wouldn't get mixed up. But at the same time, I think that the challenge in itself was the best thing for me. And, especially now looking back, and I remember we reflected on that as well. But I was grateful that I was given that time to learn and to reflect and give myself the grace through that. Also, the students, I would say, were another great part. Like, I'd be at home and have that feeling of just wanting to be back in the classroom again. So I knew that was a sign that I chose the right route.
Yeah, I definitely had that feeling too. There were some of the kids were just, there was such a joy. And now I would say all kids, but teachers listen to this podcast. They know that there's some kids there that in that day they pull your strings in a way that you're like, man, do I really want to come back to see that kid the next day? But we love all our kids and want to make sure that they learn. But there are some kids that you just love to teach them, right? Mm-hmm. They just you think about, man, I can't wait to see how they attack this problem the next day when you're planning or you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I loved being in the classroom this year are several of the students. And then aside from the kids that you're thinking of like, oh, this is going to be great. I can't wait to see what they do. And then you get to the class and the kid that you didn't think was going to do anything or have any impact
Yes.
suddenly has this like epiphany or they say something and
Yeah.
you're like, what? Wow, that was really cool. And I think that there were a couple of times that we experienced that.
Yeah.
Can we? So I know this is a little bit of a side conversation, but I'd like to just kind of get your thoughts on even like like, oh, I didn't realize that. But this is actually one of the first times I'm learning that you have a business background.
Oh,
That you
cool.
got
Okay.
your degree in business finance, right? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Business finance?
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, but California just passed a law very, very recently that is going to require high school students to have a personal finance
Oh, wow.
course or integrated somewhere in
Wow.
to graduate high school. So that's coming down the pipeline in a few years here.
Yeah.
And so I know
wow.
districts
Wow.
are going to be clamoring for people that have personal finance and business finance backgrounds.
That's actually really funny because I like I wanted to when I got my business finance degree, originally I wanted to be a business finance teacher to teach personal finance, but I didn't at that time it was an elective. So I was thinking, okay, there's not going to be very many classes on it, and it's because, I really liked math, and also my mom at an early age, she kind of got us into that finance part, and I wanted to go the teaching route because I didn't want to tell people like in a business setting, I guess, I didn't feel comfortable telling them how to use their money. So I thought maybe, okay, just teaching them, giving them advice might be a little better. But that's actually good to know.
Yeah. We I worked with the teacher at our continuation school and we created a course for our continuation students that integrated mathematics and some business finance, not business, but really just personal finance topics. So kids learn budgeting and
Wow.
taxes and creating businesses. I remember coming into the class and talking to a student, and they're like, yeah, I want to have this business and I'm going to save this amount of money, but my
Yeah.
parents don't want to save money, but I'm going to be saving money in this investment account. Like, whoa, this kid's
Yeah.
17 and he's already thinking of this stuff, which is why personal finance is so important. So I don't know if I ever told you this either. I mean, we're so inundated in Math 1 and Math 2,
Yes,
but I
yes.
actually taught a semester of personal finance, mathematics at a school I taught at when I was in Nevada. And then I was also the advisor for the Future Business Leaders of America, the FBLA. And I took students to the state competition, and they did competitions in business and finance things. So there is definitely a space for you to lean into that background.
Yeah, wow.
Especially if you're going to be a math teacher, I think other schools will ask, hey, can you teach this personal finance class? And that might fill your bucket a little bit because
Yes.
it lines up with exactly what you've done in the past.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
something to think about.
Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to take another little
Yes.
right turn, left turn here. We had talked about how you were thinking about special ed. I know you have some special ed background, which I'll ask if you can just talk about really quickly. But one of the courses that we offer at our other school or the other high school in our district is what they call it consumer math. But our mild and moderate students that take Math 1, they split it up into a Math A and a Math B over 2 years. So they take Math 1 their freshman year, or Math A their freshman year, Math B their sophomore year, which is Math 1, which is basically just Math 1 in 2 years. And then their junior year, they take a course called Consumer Math. And Consumer Math, we've been using the National Personal Finance, I can't remember off the top of my head what the name of the group was, but but that class is built around personal financial literacy. So it brings together your background
Yes, yeah.
with, I know that you have a special, I don't know, place for students with special needs.
Yeah.
So I think that would also be a really good mix of your talents. So just for our listeners, just can you tell them a little bit about your background working with special needs students before you
Yeah.
even got into the program this semester?
You said how I got into. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last part?
Oh, the work that you did in the past with special needs students. I know you did some work at a gym, and just talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So it was actually also a really cool opportunity. I remember discussing with my boss at this gymnastics place here in Turtle Walk, and I remember telling him that I was interested in doing adapted PE and to work with students with special needs. Well, he has a daughter with special needs, and so he had always wanted to create a program where, you can go, you can have your child who has special needs in our program, and it'd be a place where we can, not just have them there and have them there and it wasn't going to be like just what is it called, like an open gym where they just go and go where they want in the gym, but it was going to be more of teaching them specific skills, and so it would be a place where we're taking them seriously. And so that was a thing that at that moment he was wanting to create that, so I was actually a big part of starting it up and just being the coach for all the special needs classes there. And so we've been doing that, I believe, it's been about, I think, going on 2 years now, I want to say. But yeah, so it's been a little while.
Was there anything in that work that connected with the work that you did this semester in class that you saw some connections with?
Yeah, so I remember I would talk to the owners, and I would tell them, like, oh, I'm learning everything, like even with my coursework, everything was kind of intertwined. And I would say a lot of it would be about like the classroom management, also the patience that you're developing there. Well, I've been told that I have a good amount of patience, and so I feel like that was one thing that, you're kind of also bringing into the classroom itself too. But yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Isis.
Yeah, it's good. No, I think that patience is, I noticed that in you too, that you had a really great amount of patience, and I think that's something that people tell me a lot too. Like, why? How do you have so much patience?
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know what? You have to have patience when you're dealing with 13, 14, 15-year-olds. Okay, so let's talk about the experience in an inquiry-based approach, because I know that your experience as a student might not have been the same as what we were working on in our classroom. So what has been really the biggest difference in experiencing an inquiry-based approach to teaching math compared to what you may have experienced as a student?
So as a student, I was taught through direct instruction, and I remember we would have time to work with our group, and a handful of students were even called up to the front to show their work. But now I've seen, going in and observing and then being in your classroom also, I've seen students, all students up at the board and working. But the biggest difference that I would have noticed would have been the questioning, and it wasn't necessarily, what step comes next, but rather you mentioned like being the facilitator of the math, and you're also like withholding the solution for a period of time, and allowing the students to go through that productive struggle. but you're still giving them those points to consider, the resources, and again, those questions as a scaffold.
Yeah, that's a great thing to learn. I'm sure that was tough to learn as a pre-service teacher. How
Oh,
did that align with some of the things that maybe you were discussing in your courses as you were taking courses as well?
yeah, and also another part was that the solution, it doesn't always matter too. So
Mm.
it's also about like their thinking behind it. So that was also another interesting part to more focus on. But in terms of the how it aligned with my pre-service courses, there are a lot of pieces of information that I would learn in my courses that I would then see in the classroom. I remember seeing the 3 read segment in your class, and
Hmm.
in my teaching literacy in your content area course, we learned how to incorporate how to read a text in math class. So that was interesting, and it was really neat to see the both correspond. And also, I didn't hear so much of my cohort mentioning an inquiry-based approach being used in their classroom. So that was a additional piece of information I feel I got to learn, and as well, I was as well as the grading was another aspect that I felt like I got to learn that wasn't necessarily being taught in our courses.
Yeah, yeah. I think I mentioned when you first started that you were kind of getting, you were kind of being thrown into this like expert level
Hmm.
class
Hmm. Yeah,
where
yeah,
we were kind of pushing the envelope on a lot of things, and I
yeah.
wanted to make sure that you learned how to grade. And I know that the grading that we did on the was on kind of the way of a standards-based grading system,
Hmm.
right? We talked
Hmm.
about standards-based grading and a proficiency-based grading system. So there were quite a few things I think that were not, I would say, not conventional that you would have seen
Hmm.
in a
Yeah.
pre-service course. It's been a long time since I've been in a pre-service course,
Yeah.
27 years to be exact. So, but I do remember in my master's courses that we had some things like this. So if you ever go to get your master's degree,
Hmm. Okay.
you might actually see some of this material in your master's degree. But I know it's a big push in our California framework.
Hmm.
So an experience for
Hmm.
the first semester. How would you wrap that up as your experience? How did you feel it went?
Overall, I felt it was a good experience. Again, challenging, very challenging, and at some points. But if I were to be able to give some advice for other pre-service teachers moving forward, currently right now I have like made a Google Doc of all these different educational links that were given by professors or books that I want to read. Building Thinking Classrooms is on there also. But just having a list of resources that you can always come back to when you do find yourself having that time. Also, I remember the first day I was subbing, you gave me that, like, it was something you said where it's like to have fun, learn, reflect, give yourself grace. And I think the grace part is what I think we need to remember most is giving yourself that grace because you're learning. So yeah. Also, it was funny because when the last day when you handed me your business card and it said Abel Maestas instructional coach, I thought, oh man, I just got like a semester long service of your time. So that was awesome to think. And it's funny because it didn't click until the end. And I was like, oh man. But I would recommend definitely uh, having a mentor that specializes in an inquiry based approach also. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if they don't, they could always think about how can we put some of that in. What's those questioning things that we can do? I know that I definitely gave you some room to put in some games, some things that you were learning about, adding that into the lessons, which
Yeah.
I think is a really great thing to do as well. So, so what's next for you? What's going to happen this summer? Where
Yeah.
what's going to land next year? And then how has this experience shaped your decisions moving forward?
So, actually, right now, I am in the process of adding a mild moderate special needs credential. So, going forward, I really wanted to, I like that idea of an inquiry based approach, and I was thinking about how I can bring that possibly into a special needs classroom. And I'm still wondering what that might look like, but I think for the most part, these students do show that they're curious, and if they are verbal, then typically they're more likely to respond to a question over a statement also. So I think that, it could, there's, that would look really pretty neat implementing that. But I know you also mentioned about the teaching consumer math also. So that's another route that I could possibly look into because, that originally part of the reason why I liked math was the numbers and the personal finance behind it. So, I think that would be cool to kind of go back to that and look into the possibilities there. So yeah.
Wow. So I'm changing your decisions like right in the
Yes.
middle of a podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's so much, you've got so much time and so much to think about. But I think that everything that you shared today with your experience, with the approaches that we do in mathematics, with your love of business and finance, I think that people that are listening, I hope that they got a lot out of that. I think any pre-service teachers out there that listen to the podcast, I think they can get a lot out of this today. And I thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to be on my podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. Like you said, I hope some of my experience could help bring value towards any other students out there that are listening.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you again, Jazlyn, for joining me, and thanks everybody for listening to the Teaching That Counts podcast.